Peace, everybody. This is Alma coming to you with my home birth series with real time stories from women who have experienced home birth to give inspiration and the real rawness of what it's like to birth at home. Today we have Ashlee, and I'm going to allow Ashlee to introduce herself and everything that she does so you can get to know her a little bit better.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Alma, for having me. My name is Ashlee J. I am creator of Birth Class in a Box. I create resources and space for Black birth workers to get started in birth work and to thrive. I came into this work because I am a mom and have three children, all birthed at a hospital, and the last one was a home birth.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I will be putting all of Ashlee's links below if you want to find out more about her offerings and everything that she's about. So you can click on all her links and follow her and stay connected. So let's get into the interview. All right. So my first question is, what led you to have a home birth over a hospital birth?
Woo, child. So my first two births were birth center births.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got pregnant with my first son, I told my husband, I said, I'm afraid of needles. I don't like hospitals. So we're gonna have to figure out something else. And I think it was him that found the birth center. And then so I did that with my first two births. And then with the last one, it was the middle of the pandemic, right? It was 2021
Mm-hmm.
and the birth center had closed right before the pandemic had hit. And so my options were home birth or birth center. I mean, home birth or hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not going to nobody's hospital, especially in the middle of a pandemic. Like, it's a no for me. And so it was like, okay, I guess we're doing a home birth. And we found a midwife, and the rest is history.
I love that. That's similar to my story. Look, I was pregnant during the pandemic, and it was no way in hell. Excuse my language, but it was like I was like, no,
I
okay.
was like, I wouldn't do it on a regular day, let alone in the middle of a pandemic when rules are constantly changing and maybe you'll be with your partner, maybe you'll be able to have a. We're not playing them games.
So, how did you prepare for your home birth? What are some things that you did to get ready to prepare for your home birth?
Whew, so, definitely got a midwife.
Mm-hmm.
I had to hire a birth assistant as well.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew that I wanted to do a water birth. So we had to get a pool and all of that and figure out like where in the house are we going to do that. Um, I did a lot of postpartum planning more than anything, right? So like who was gonna take care of my children, my other two children, how let's make sure we're gonna have food. So I like went shopping and like filled up the freezer, was sending messages on Facebook like, hey y'all, I'm gonna need postpartum soup, who gonna bring me some soup? Um so a lot of like calling people and letting them know like, hey, we're gonna have a baby. It's gonna be at home. I need your support, and this is what I need from you. Just a lot of like direct instruction to people of what we were gonna need, and then that nesting phase hit into of like, okay, I want to make sure my sheets are clean and I have all of the supplies that I need, and we did it in the basement. I had the baby in the basement, so I was like, oh, I want to make sure the basement is all set up really nicely, and we have the TV and the couch and all the different things, the birthing ball and all that stuff readily available for when I would need it.
Yes, I love that. I wanna point something out for the women who will watch this video, that a lot of times in the preparation for birth, home birth, or wherever you are thinking about birthing, we forget the fourth trimester, which is the most crucial time in a woman's life, and we need all the love and support and
Yep.
preparation that we can get. So as you are thinking about how you are going to birth and preparing for the actual birth, do not forget to prepare for the fourth trimester. I really love that she pointed that out as the main focus because it's forgot about so much.
Yep.
So my next question, which kind of goes into what you already answered about finding a midwife, but what factors did you consider when looking for a midwife?
I really wanted somebody that aligned with my views about birth, and somebody that wasn't going to try to force me to do stuff that I didn't want to do. I am very much um, a holistic. Like I don't want to do sonograms at all. And like if there's an issue, I want to let's look at my diet first and things like that. Like don't try to prescribe me a bunch of medicines, and like it's a no for me. And honestly, I also wanted somebody that was black. Like that was probably the top thing on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe to my detriment a little bit, because that was really important. Representation is really important, and having somebody that has a shared experience is really important. But her values and views around birth were not fully aligned with mine, and so it caused
Mm-hmm.
some issues in the process.
Yes.
Um, but those were definitely the things that were kind of on my list when I was trying to figure out who I wanted to go with.
Okay, very similar to mine. Very. All right. Could you describe the environment that you created? I know you talked about, having the birthing pool and cleaning your space, but are there any other things that you did to set the tone and set the vibe for your birthing environment and the experience?
Yeah, I think the major thing is I kicked my kids out the house.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
right, and
You
most
kicked them
people,
out.
right, they had to go because and I thought it would be a really beautiful idea to have them present and to have them as a part of the experience. My
Mm-hmm.
husband thought that it might be scary for them, like, to see me in pain, or to, I'm one of those people that's screaming, right, when it's time to push, right? He was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be able to handle that. And I was like, oh, well, let's see what happens. Let's ask them and see what happens. But for the week before I gave birth, I kept having contractions every night for like 2 hours, and then it would just stop. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it was because there was too much going on in my house, right? I had two
Overstimulated.
boys. They were doing the most, they're loud in the evening. It's just, and I think the baby was like, I'm not coming out to all of that. Like, no. And
Mm-hmm.
so the morning that we sent them to their grandparents, like, that's really when labor picked up. Like, had to kick the kids out.
Mm-hmm. I think too, as a mom, you're focused on caregiving for the children, so maybe that'll halt and stop the labor as well. That's an interesting perspective. Definitely. All right, so how did you manage pain and discomfort in labor without any medical interventions?
Oh my goodness, so many things. So, distraction, the water, warm water, um, walking, pausing during contractions, like not trying to fight the contractions or move through them or any of the, but like literally just stopping what I was doing, breathing through it, really trying to make sure I was relaxed. Um, and I think one of the biggest things that was helpful was I did not hire a doula for this birth because I was paying for a midwife, right? And that was already out of the budget, but it was necessary.
Yes.
A friend, I had called a friend, and she brought us breakfast. And my friend is a doula, and so
Okay.
while she's there, she drops off the food. I'm thinking she just drop it off and leave and go back to work, but she dropped it off and she just kind of hung around a little bit and like watched. And then she was like, "Let's go for a walk." So we're like walking around the block, and then she's like, "You are fighting this. Like, you're fighting." And she would point to my forehead and be like, "You have to relax right there. Relax your shoulders." Like, and having that was probably the most helpful thing to help me get through the discomfort and the pain of it. Like, her just being there to point it out, like, you're fighting, like, just lean into it, like, just breathe
Yeah.
into it, like, stop pushing against it, was probably the number one thing that helped the entire process.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Yes. Don't fight it. Don't tense up. You're going to make it worse. Yes.
Right.
All right. So my next question is, what support system, which you actually already answered that. My question was, what support system did you have in place during your home birth? I mean, if you want to talk about other areas of support that you had other than the doula and the midwife and your husband, if you had other support.
Those are mostly it.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up things to help me get through the discomfort and the pain of it. Like her just being there to point it out, like you're fighting, like just lean into it, like just breathe
Yeah.
into it, like stop pushing against it was probably the number one thing that helped the entire process.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Yes. Don't fight it. Don't tense up. You're going to make it worse. Yes.
Right.
All right. So my next question is, what support system, which you actually already answered that. My question was, what support system did you have in place during your home birth? I mean, if you want to talk about other areas of support that you had other than the doula and the midwife and your husband, if you had other support.
Those are mostly it.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up having two midwives by accident because the my original
Okay.
one, and it was just a special little gift because the original midwife had two people in birth at the same time,
Oh,
and
wow.
so she called her. I was moving quicker, so she came to me first, but she called her backup to come tend to me while she left to go to the other one. So I had two really awesome black midwives, right, or
Oh,
two
nice.
black midwives in my
Nice.
my birth experience, and a birth assistant who was phenomenal, supporting me, and then also my in-laws who took the kids. So yeah.
Nice. So my next questions were there any challenges that you faced during your home birth experience and how did you address them?
Um, I think the biggest challenge I would say is leading up to the birth.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier I talked about how like having a midwife that had the same kind of birth philosophy as me was really important, and kind of there was a misstep there. So she was a certified nurse midwife, right? So she was trained as a nurse first and then became a midwife. So she has very close proximity to how they do it in hospitals, right? Mine is
Mm-hmm.
many interventions, but so for instance, when I talked about not wanting sonograms, one of her requirements was to have at least one
One.
anatomy
Mm-hmm.
scan, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
can open up a whole can of worms, and for me it
Mm-hmm.
did, right? So they were like, when I did that sonogram, I was probably like maybe 9 weeks pregnant, and they were like, "Oh, your placenta is covering some of your cervix," which can be an issue if when it's time to birth the baby, that's still a thing, right? That can be an issue, but that early on is normal, right? It's
Right.
normal, and
Right.
it doesn't usually need anything. And as your baby grows and as your uterus expands, the placenta usually moves out the way and everything is fine. But
Right.
because of
Right.
that, her recommendations beyond that point just kept adding on to it. So it was like, okay, I don't want you to have sex because that can cause an issue if your placenta is right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or from there, it was like they wanted me to do even more um, uh, scans, a sonogram, to make sure that the placenta had moved away from the cervix, and it was really frustrating. It was like really frustrating because I'm like, see, if I wouldn't have got one at the beginning, you would not have known that.
Never
It
know.
wouldn't have been
Yep.
an issue. right? And
Yeah.
I think for some people that also is scary, right? Because they're like, but
Mhm.
that could have been a problem. If it would have been a problem, there would have been other signs that would have
Exactly.
shown that there is a problem. And
Yes.
so yeah, that was one of the challenges. But why I ended up keep going with it, because I felt like if this is the one thing I have to deal with in order to have a home birth versus going to the hospital,
Just
I
do
will
it.
deal with this
Mhm. Mhm.
better than people trying to push, Pitocin down my throat or C-section down my
Epidural.
throat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
All of that pressure. I was like, I will take this over that. And so, um, you know, that was a part of my process. I hope that it doesn't have to be a part of other people's. Like it's unnecessary, but I was like, you know what, I will take this.
Yes. Listen, I am not an advocate of sonograms at all. And not to go on my home birth story, but I actually was the same. I chose a white midwife over a black one because I didn't want to get sonograms, and I felt like the white midwife, even though I really wanted a black one,
Yep.
she aligned more with my beliefs. She was more traditional in a sense, right? So that's kind of a little bit of my story. So I can relate a lot because I said I have to
Yeah.
get that one sonogram. I didn't want to get it, Um, so my next question is, how did you ensure the safety of both yourself and your baby during your home birth?
Knowledge,
Mm,
right? I think knowing what the normal process looks like is really important, right? I think regardless of who is attending your birth, you need to know what's
mm,
supposed to be going
mm,
on, right? Like at the end of the day, every decision is mine, right? I can say yes or no to anything that's offered to me, and I need to be able to do that in an informed way. And so
yeah,
I needed to know, right? Like, and having this been my third birth, and I'm a childbirth educator myself. I'm a former doula, right? I kind of had that information, and I still did more research. I was still reading more stuff, even in my third birth. Um, it was just important to know for myself and to make sure that my husband also knew, right? So that we were making informed decisions and not just blindly trusting somebody who we think knows all of the things, right? People make
yes,
mistakes, right?
yes,
People don't know everything. They might know
yes,
textbook, but they don't know my body, right? So I
right.
have to take
Listen,
exactly. I have to take the textbook knowledge and my personal knowledge and mesh those things together and make the best decision for me and my family. So knowledge was absolute number one.
yes, I love that answer. All right. So my next question is, what moments or aspects of your home birth experience really stood out to you?
I love this question. So my midwife kind of took her time getting to us because, like I said, she had two births at one time and she was trying to figure out who to go to first. And so at one point, this was after my doula friend had left. We had taken a nap. I woke up and things started to like really progress. And at one point, I'm like standing in the kitchen, and my husband was just coming out of the shower, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "There's something coming out. Like something is coming out. I'm not sure if it's a baby or what, but something is coming out." So he like immediately calls the midwife, and he tells her like what's happening, and she's like, lay her down. Like, tell her to get down. And I'm like, I am not getting on this kitchen floor. I'm like, this is a hardwood floor. That's going to be made uncomfortable. Absolutely not. And I know if I get down, I'm not going to be able to get up. And so my husband is like, has his hand in between my legs, trying to make sure that whatever comes out doesn't fall and hit the floor.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm walking him backwards because I'm like, I'm not sitting on this floor. And she's like, okay. He's like, can she sit on the couch? And I'm like, no. Like, if I'm about to give birth, I'm not doing it on my couch. Absolutely not. So I'm like steering him towards the bedroom. Like, we're going towards the bed. Like, absolutely not. And thankfully, it wasn't the baby at that time. It was just part of the amniotic sac, like the
Hmm.
beginning of it,
Hmm.
that had kind of came through a little bit. But that will forever be like the highlight, because my husband just knew that he was about to be the person catching this
Catching a
baby
baby.
with
Mm-hmm.
no midwife in sight. Absolutely hilarious.
Oh wow, I love that. That's hilarious. The next one is, how has your home birth experience and how did your home birth experience impact your postpartum period and your overall well-being?
How did it impact my postpartum and overall? I think just being in my own home um, was impactful. Like I just felt comfortable. I didn't have to like pack up all my stuff and get in the car and leave. I didn't have to worry about is my baby going to be okay in a car seat? Is my baby going to be crying the whole time in a car seat? It was less anxiety provoking.
Yes.
I just I walked back up the stairs to my bed, got in the bed, and I was there for the next 2 weeks. So I think it really helped just set a mood of rest and of just like being okay with focusing on myself and nursing my baby. Like that is all I had to think about.
Okay, I love that. And my last question, what advice would you give to women considering a home birth?
Do it.
Don't even think
Like,
about it. Just do it. Just
don't
do it.
even think about it. Like I have so many people that say to me, I want to do a home birth, but I think I'm gonna go to the hospital just in case something happens. And it's like that is a flawed reason because it doesn't even make sense, right? You're more
At
likely
all. At
to
all.
have an issue at the hospital and for all of the bad things you can possibly think of to happen at a hospital than at a home than in a home birth if it's a low risk pregnancy. Like
Right.
if you look at the real statistics of it, like you are more likely to have a C-section, more likely to have a hemorrhage, more likely to have pre and post preeclampsia,
Thank you.
like all of
Mhm.
those issues. You're
Yep.
more likely to have those in a hospital setting, right? More likely to have interventions, issues with breastfeeding, all of the things in a birth setting versus in a home birth, right? So I would say, definitely do your own research so you can feel calm and knowledgeable and confident in the decision. But just do it. Like you're
Yes.
you're you're not gonna regret it. Like do it.
Yes, that's the best advice. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it yourself out of it. Just do the necessary education and due diligence to prepare. Yes, I
Yep.
love this interview. Thank you so much, Ashlee, for coming on and speaking. Again, I will be putting all her links, social media platforms, and information in the description. Thank you, everyone who will watch this. As y'all know, I am Ama. I am a doula. I am a Kundalini Reiki practitioner, and I am an aspiring midwife. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to hit me up or comment below. Peace, y'all, and have a beautiful day.